I just saw a post and I just had some thoughts that I wanted to share. I'll probably do this video and delete it, but I grew up in a very deeply misogynistic culture. So much so that 10 years ago, I actually believed that women shouldn't have the right to vote. And that was part of what damaged our culture in America, was women were given the right to vote. Crazy. I was always taught that women were more easily deceived, they were more emotional, not as logical. They weren't leaders, that God didn't mean for them to be leaders. I was told, whenever I would question any of that, I was told that God's ways are higher than our ways, and that even if it doesn't make sense, that we just have to trust God. You can't question God. Except I don't think that's true. I think that God actually wants us to question. I think He even wants us to question Him, because that's how we get to the truth. And I no longer believe that women aren't supposed to be leaders, or that they're more emotional, or more easily deceived, or I don't even know. Like all the stuff that I believe, I don't believe any of it anymore. Like 3 years ago, when I went through my divorce, I still believed what I had been taught, that as a woman, I was called by God to submit to my husband and do whatever he told me to do without questioning him, because if I questioned him, that would be showing disrespect. And I believed all the things that I was told about men needing respect more than them needing love. And it's not true. Like, none of it is true. I don't even know at this point what things I was taught that were true. I think I question absolutely everything, except for I have no doubt that there is a God. Like, I have seen His hand in my life over and over and over, and it's been incredible. But 3 years ago, when I went through my divorce, I was trying to figure out what had caused everything to fall apart. Basically, he was very manipulative, lied to me, gaslit me. Everything was always my fault. And he told me that if I was just more loving and submissive, then it would fix everything. And I poured everything I had into my marriage because I didn't want my kids to go through another divorce. And then when I reached out and asked God to help me to fix my marriage, because I didn't think I could make it another 10 years, then rather than God helping me fix my marriage, He started giving me tools to see what was really going on. I came across a book called The Emotionally Destructive Marriage by Leslie Vernick. It's amazing. And that's when I started seeing just how unhealthy my marriage was. And through the process of that, I reached out to a friend, and she added me to a support group online. And then I started putting down healthy boundaries and saying that I couldn't continue the way things were, that things needed to change, the behavior towards me needed to change, towards my kids. And he essentially just discarded me. He was just done. He didn't want to work on it. He didn't want to do anything. And he asked me to get everything set up so that we could divorce. And at the time, it was very devastating for me. I had never imagined getting divorced once, let alone twice. But anyway, so I wrote in my prayer journal a few months after the divorce, and I just cried out to God and said, God, I don't understand. Like, it seems like me being so submissive actually contributed to my marriage falling apart. And I just asked him to show me his truth. I just said, God, please show me your truth. I want your truth. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I just need to know what your truth is. And it's been really interesting since then, because I've had so many things come across my path, like different books and different ideas and all kinds of things, to the point where I have dramatically changed my views on how God views women. And I no longer believe that women are just here to submit to men and do whatever they tell them to do without question. I've learned that that's actually incredibly unhealthy for women, and it's unhealthy for the men, because when you have a child who is given everything that they want and they don't have any consequences or anything for their behavior, if they're acting out in a way that isn't good for them or other people, if you let them have whatever they want, they just become more and more selfish. And I can't see how that's different when, what's the difference between a child getting everything they want and a man being told that he should get everything that he wants and that God commands it? Because from what I've seen, it just makes them more and more selfish. And it doesn't make them more like Jesus. So, I haven't really figured out exactly what I believe, but I'm starting to come to the point where I feel like a lot of the scriptures that were used against me to tell me that as a woman, my sole purpose was basically to do whatever my dad said or whatever my husband said. I have done a lot of research on those scriptures, and I'm finding that I don't think that's what was meant by those scriptures at all. I think if you look into the original text and you do more research, you will find that's not true. And I know there's a lot of people who staunchly believe differently, and I'm pretty sure there's people who think I've completely gone off the deep end and I've become a heretic and I'm completely lost, but I don't think so. I think that God is actually showing me his truth. And I think that God has real value for women and for men. And I think that we have been told a lie. And something that has stuck out to me recently is how Jesus, when he was tempted in the desert, Satan used scripture and he twisted it and he took it out of context and he used it to try and tempt Jesus. And so I just wonder, if he'd use that tactic for Jesus, then why wouldn't we think he'd do the same thing for us? And I think one of the things that we're called to is we're called to look at the fruit. If the fruit of what we believe is rotten, then maybe we should evaluate whether or not what we believe is true. Is it God's truth? What is the fruit of what we believe?